737NG overhead. The overhead for the 737 has not changed, at least its basic layout, over the past 50 or so years that it's been in production. Of course, technological advances have made the overhead change as necessary, but aside from that, the basic layout is still the same. So, start from the top left and work our way down. Top left, you see leading edge devices. That is the flap indicator. If we were to push that button, we would see the test that all the lights are working for that panel. Over here, we have the IRS panel, left and right, and that is the basic layout for actually 7.5 and the 7.6. It's slightly different for the 737. Over here, the oxygen panel. Going down the right, have the air conditioning and the bleed air. That big white panel down there, where all the white knobs are, is the bleed air panel. Air conditioning is separated from the flight deck to the forward cabin to the aft cabin, and then there's a supply duct gauge right there next to the gauge. Or the knob, we can see what the air temperature is in several locations. Okay, moving down, see there that 34,000 is. That is the pressurization panel. Coming to the left, there's a big dial right there, and a smaller dial. That is the pressurization gauges. Now that is for cabin altitude, differential pressure, and for vertical speed of the cabin, going up or down in hundreds of feet. Right above that, you'll see engine and electric. That is the hydraulics panel. That is one difference that has changed from the older 737s to the newer ones. And also the bleed air panel is slightly changed as well. In the 200, you'll see just a gasper. On the NGs, you'll see a restart fan, left and right. Okay, moving up, you have the wing and engine anti-ice, window heats. Going over here, interior lights for the circuit breakers and the panels, equipment cooling, emergency exit lights, and they have the fasten seatbelt sign. Attendant call, that's the ground call, so if that flight deck wants to call the ground, they can call it. Wipers, left and right. Electrical panel. More electrical panel, that's where the battery and different meters can be given. And over here, we have a flight controls panel where you can activate standby systems or not. A navigation panel, you can select both on 1 or 2 or depending on the failure. Source displays, and then the fuel panel. And then all these knobs right over here and switches at the end are the exterior lights. That is the 737NG overhead. Moving on to the forward panel, we have the PFD for the captain, and the first officer is the same. All the way on the left, you'll see the 45, that's the speed tape, that's airspeed and knots. In the middle, you'll see like an arc, that's where the GPS or the artificial horizon goes. If it was on, if the IRS was aligned, you would see the blue on the top and the brown on the bottom, just like in my 767 video. Over here is the navigation display. This is what's not on the 767. It's similar, but it has many different features, and it's of course bigger. Well, anyways, I would show you if it was aligned, but it's not. Standby instruments. Top is the artificial horizon. Middle is the altitude, and then down here on the bottom we have the indicated airspeed. Over here is a dual RMI. Upper DU, lower DU. DU means display unit. At the top, it has N1. Next is EGT. Next is fuel flow. On the bottom is N2, fuel flow, oil pressure, oil temperature, oil quantity, and vibration of the engines. Now, if you've seen my A320 video, you'll see that the vibration is just generic, unlike in the A320, where it's separate for each fan. Turning on the ground power on the 737NG is very simple. First, you gotta turn on the battery. And then, after the blue light is on, you're gonna have 400 hertz, 115 volts AC on the meter when the ground power is selected to read. And all you gotta do is push this momentary switch. And that's it. turning off ground power is just as easy as turning on. All we gotta do is move the momentary switch back. Make sure the bat's on TR1. And turn off the battery. That's it. The line they are used in the 737NG is the same as the 757 and the 767. First, you make sure that you come up here to the top, the IRU panel, turn it to the nav position. Okay, you're going to get the indications on DC, and then a line, and then a line. And you come down here. Now you see that someone else already did this, so I don't have to type it in, but in any case, what you would do is you would push this button, it would come up on the scratch pad, and then you would have all these route sheets just like that. So, like this, like that, and then you just wait. And according to this, it says 6 minutes. Now, if you remember the other video, it said it didn't have this panel, but this one does. So if you put it to the heading STS mode, you can see how long it takes. It went from 6 to 5 now. And that's how long you'd wait, and then you'd see all the displays come up. Alright, now what I've done is I have started up the battery and the APU, but I have not allowed the generator for the APU to give the power to the aircraft. So, what I did was I turned the battery on, and then the APU. What you do for the APU is you pull it down to on just for a second, and then push it to start, hold it there for another second, and let go. And then this, the EGT gauge, this is the exhaust gas temperature for the APU. It shows how hot the gas is coming out of the APU. It goes up to all the way up to 8, then comes back down to about 4. So 3 or 4. And then once that's done, when it's ready, you'll see the APU blue light come on. The blue light means the APU generator is ready to take the load of the airplane. And then what you do is you just push one button and then the other one. And that's how you activate the generator for the APU, for the aircraft. Now what you saw before with just these instruments coming up was the standby bus, because I hadn't activated the bus or the generator for the APU yet. So that's just for the APU. Alright, now this is the overhead panel. Now, in this product, the PMDG, for some reason, I don't know if it's PMDG itself or my computer. It might be my computer. I'm not sure. But in any case, here's how the configuration goes for this. Bleed of air panel. You have the APU bleed valve on, both engine bleed valves on. You can put this in the auto position or in the open position. Doesn't matter. Auto position is preferred. And then you're supposed to put both of these packs in off. But for some reason, like I said, this one doesn't act like that, so I have to put the left pack in auto and the right pack in off. I don't know why that is, but that's the case in this particular product for my computer. Now, this is how much you want to have in there, about 40 or so, but definitely above 30, all right? And then the engine start switches are down here. So, what I'm going to do is make sure that when the igniter is in one position, you put it in the other. So we're pretend. So I put it in this one. So we put it to ground. Then come over here. See start valve open. The low oil pressure. I'm gonna say it's 23% in 2. You bring the fuel lever up. Okay. It starts the fuel inside the engine. low oil pressure light extinguishes. And then at 56% N2, the start switch is supposed to automatically cut back into the off position, or the auto position, actually. Start valve will shut off. See? Just about 56%, it shut off. That means the switch went back to the auto from the ground position. And that's where it stabilizes. Once the engines are stabilized, you want to get the generators from the engines giving the power to the airplane. So right now the APU is giving that. So what you do is we go up right here where it says generator off buses. Now, unlike the APU where when the light was on, that means it was ready. The off button just means that the generator for the aircraft is off. It's not giving the power. So what you do is the same thing. Left side and then right side. And then once that's completed, you can just shut off the APU. And then after a while, it'll shut off. And then for the bleed air panel, you can close the APU bleed valve and turn on the packs. You can leave them in auto, or you can put them in on or high, whichever your 737 has. And that's it. And this is just a better view of the bleed air panel. Packs in auto, isolation valve in auto, APU bleed valve off, and the engine bleed valves on, because we want the air from the engines to give power, or give air to the rest of the aircraft. Also, I forgot to mention, make sure the hydraulics are in, and the window heats and pitot heats are on, and the fuel pumps.